when you are creating a grid, you might want to create a big grid with a lot of rows. Well, then you don't need to write the rows or the columns one by one. You can use the repeat function. And what you do is that you write repeat, and on the left parenthesis, then you write the number of times it should repeat the next part. And as you can see here in my example, you can have multiple columns in this case. And this means that it will repeat the two columns with 50 pixels and 100 pixels. So you will get alternating 50, 100, 50, 100, 50, 100, and you repeat that 5 times. So in this way, you can easily, using repeat, create these rows. And we can use this also to kind of automatically layout, but I will come back to that later on. When using the grid, you can also use some new size units. And the first one is called a fraction, and this one is really powerful, and it is actually what most people think that the flexbox flex colon is. Because when you set up fractions, it will first lay out all the fixed columns, and then it will add or divide the rest of the layout into as many fractions as you have, and then divide that up to into the columns. So with this one, it is really simple to create a layout in the way you want. If you would like to have a kind of 1/3, well, then you can set 1 fraction on the first column and 2 fractions on the next column, or 5/8 or whatever. There is a function that's called a min-max. That is maybe not a new unit, but you can use that, and you do use that a lot when creating columns. Then you set the minimum value and the maximum value. And then you also have mean content and max content, and the mean content is kind of, if you have a paragraph with text, then it will see, okay, what is the longest word? So what is the minimum size I need to fit all words in one columns? And the max is kind of the opposite. Then it will kind of hunt for the biggest element and then set the column width to that one. Then you also have the automatic layout, and that means that you say to the browser, do the layout, and I don't care. That is usually not a good option, but it works sometimes. So let's continue a little bit and set the first column to some fixed value, and then the second column to 1 fraction. And then we could try what happens if I set the first column to 1 fraction, the second to 2 fractions, and so on, so forth. So let's try this one, and let's go here. So let's go to my Safari here, and let's set up the first column to be 150 pixels, and the second column to be 1 fraction. Now you see that the first column here is fixed in size, and the second column kind of takes up the rest of the space. And this is because, well, this one, the first, is 150 pixels, is fixed in size, and then the next column will take up all the remaining space, because now we have only 1 fraction in total. But on the other hand, if I set this one to 1 fraction and this one to 2 fractions, well, then you will see that we now have 1/3 here and 2/3 here. And if you would like to have 25% instead, well, then you can add more. And you can, of course, just continue adding this as you want, and they will divide the space in a good way, and it will not behave as a flexbox, because this is true division of the space. Now we know a little bit about this, and you can try other combinations, also said. So let's also try the min-max here, for example. Let's say that we said min-max, and what we usually do is that we might set the first in pixels, like 150 pixels, and then 1 fraction, and maybe we should remove that one so we get a little bit better layout. And now you can see that the maximum is 1 fraction. So as long as 1 fraction is more than 150 pixels, it will use that. But when I continue to drag that, you can see that here at 150 pixels, it stops. So it will never get smaller than this. With that, we have now we can create a grid in the exact size that we want. But how do we place items? Because as we can see now, they seems to be kind of automatically placed within the grid. But if I would like to place them manually and move stuff around, how do I do that? Well, continue with the next video.